So now we have our user reducer and our user actions. We know conceptually that we need to bring our user reducer's current user value into where we need it, which will be our header component. Because right now our header component is getting current user from app.js. And we don't want that. What we want is for our header component to pull that current user value off of our reducer. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing that we would do is we have to actually import in connect. Oops, capitalized by accident there. We have to import this function called connect from React Redux. Connect is a higher order component that lets us modify our component to have access to things related to Redux. Now, as we remember, higher order components are just functions that take components as arguments and then return you a new souped up component. So what we'll do with connect is we are actually going to pass it two functions, the second one being optional, and then that'll give us back another higher component that we pass it our header. Now, what is it that we pass as the first argument of connect? It's going to be the function that allows us to access the state, with the state being our reducer, our root reducer to be specific. We know that with our root reducer, it is an object that has a property of user that points to our user reducer, which right now is just this initial state because we haven't triggered any actions that update the value of current user. So we know that we will end up getting current user of null, but we want that value. So how do we get it? Well, we're going to write that map state to props function, and it's going to be equal to a function. And what we're going to return from that function will be an object where the name of the property will be the actual property we want to pass in, and then the value will be the value. So what do we get in this function is the state object. This state is the root reducer, so the top level root reducer. And we want to pass in a current user property where the value of it will be state.user.currentUser. So we're saying we want the root reducer, right? We want the user value, and then which will give us our user reducer. And then from there, we want the current user value. And by doing this and passing map state to props to connect, now we're getting that null value as current user being passed in as current user. So now we can remove the passing of current user from our app state into our header. And if we now go to our header component, we'll see that we're no longer signed in. In fact, now we're signed out. But that's because we're getting our current user, which is a value of null from our map state to props, which is then respectively triggering us to see our sign in link. Now, this map state to props and this connect we'll use anywhere we need properties from our reducers. So this pattern we're going to write in a lot of our future components. But just remember that connect is a higher order component that gets either one of these two functions, the first one being this one, and the second one we're going to cover in the next lesson.